It was a chilly night when Rachel hailed a grab car, her breath visible in the crisp air. The app showed the driver's name as John, and the car's ETA was just a few minutes. She shivered with anticipation, eager to escape the cold and reach her cozy apartment. The car pulled up, its headlights cutting through the darkness. Rachel got in, greeted the driver with a polite smile, and settled into the back seat. The driver acknowledged her with a nod, and she noted how his eyes seemed to reflect an intensity that matched the night. As they started their journey, Rachel decided to make conversation. "It's a chilly night, isn't it?" she said, attempting to break the silence. The driver's lips curled into a faint smile, but he didn't respond. Undeterred, Rachel continued, asking about his experiences as a grab driver and any interesting passenger stories. The driver's response was an eerie chuckle that sent a shiver down Rachel's spine. She glanced at him in the rearview mirror, and her heart raced as she noticed his reflection wasn't quite matching his movements. Fear gripped her, but she tried to rationalize it as a trick of the light. As they drove on, Rachel realized something was wrong. The streets looked unfamiliar, and buildings seemed older, more decrepit. She asked the driver if he was sure about the route, but he didn't answer. Panic surged within her as they continued down the unfamiliar path. After what felt like an eternity, the car came to a sudden stop. Rachel's heart pounded as she looked around. They were in front of an abandoned building, surrounded by darkness. "Why did we stop here?" she asked, her voice trembling. The driver turned to her, his eyes now gleaming with an unnatural light. "This is your destination," he said, his voice chilling her to the bone. Rachel's breath caught in her throat as she realized they were nowhere near her apartment. Terrified, she fumbled for her phone, her fingers shaking as she tried to open the Grab app. But her phone screen remained black, unresponsive. Panic surged as she realized she was trapped, alone with a driver who seemed more like a phantom than a real person. With a surge of adrenaline, Rachel flung open the car door and stumbled out into the darkness. She ran, her heart pounding in her chest, not daring to look back. As she rounded a corner, she glanced over her shoulder, expecting to see the car chasing after her. But the road was empty. There was no sign of the grab car, no trace of the driver. Rachel stood there, panting, her mind racing to make sense of what had just happened. Had it all been a nightmare, or had she truly escaped a nightmarish fate? Ethan was running late for an important meeting and decided to book a grab car to get to his destination faster. The app pinged, indicating that his ride was just minutes away. He stepped outside, the cool night air sending a chill down his spine. The car pulled up, and he got in, giving a quick nod to the driver before settling into the back seat. "Morning traffic, huh?" Ethan said, trying to strike up a conversation. The driver didn't respond, his gaze fixed on the road ahead. Ethan shrugged it off, assuming the driver was simply focused on navigating the city's congested streets. As they drove on, Ethan's unease grew. He noticed that the driver's hands were gripping the steering wheel so tightly that his knuckles turned white. The driver's face was hidden in the shadows, and Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Ethan cleared his throat, attempting to break the tension. "So, how's your night been?" he asked, hoping to elicit even a brief response. The driver's lips curled into a slight smile, but he remained silent. They turned onto a dimly lit street, and Ethan's heart raced as he realized it wasn't the right route to his destination. "Hey, I think you missed a turn back there," Ethan said, his voice wavering. The driver didn't react. He continued driving down the unfamiliar road, his eyes fixed on the path ahead. Ethan's panic intensified, and he reached for his phone to check the GPS. But as he did, he realized something that sent a wave of cold dread through his veins. His phone was dead. Ethan's mind raced as he tried to figure out what to do. He considered asking the driver to stop, but his gut told him that wouldn't end well. He glanced out the window, his heart sinking as he saw that they were in a deserted area, far from the city's bustling streets. "Where are we going?" Ethan's voice trembled as he spoke. The driver's smile widened, revealing teeth that seemed unnaturally sharp. "We're almost there," the driver finally replied, his voice sending shivers down Ethan's spine. The car pulled to a stop in front of an old, decrepit building. Ethan's heart pounded as he realized there was no escape. He had to think quickly. With a surge of adrenaline, he flung open the car door and sprinted away, his footsteps echoing in the stillness of the night. He didn't stop until he reached a main road where he managed to flag down a passing car. Gasping for breath, he recounted the terrifying ordeal to the driver, who offered to take him to the nearest police station. As they drove away, Ethan stole a glance back at the deserted street, but the grab car and its eerie driver were nowhere to be seen. Nina had just landed in a new city for a business trip. Tired and disoriented, she booked a grab car to take her to the hotel. The driver's profile picture showed a middle-aged man with a friendly smile, and the app displayed his name as Sam. The car arrived, and Nina got in, giving a tired nod to the driver before settling into the back seat. The driver greeted her with a warm smile, and she immediately felt at ease. She mentioned her exhaustion from the flight, and Sam nodded sympathetically. As they drove through the city's unfamiliar streets, Nina stared out the window, taking in the sights. She glanced at her phone to check the route, but noticed something strange. The Jeep seemed to be stuck on the same street, as if they hadn't moved at all. "Excuse me," Nina said, her voice tinged with concern. "I think there might be an issue with the GPS. We haven't moved for a while." Sam glanced at the dashboard, his expression unchanged. "Don't worry, we're on the right track," he replied calmly. Nina's unease grew, but she tried to push aside her worries. Maybe there was a glitch in the app. She decided to wait a little longer, hoping the GPS would update and show their progress. Minutes turned into hours, and still, the GPS remained frozen on the same street. Panic gripped Nina as she realized they were driving in circles. She glanced at Sam, her voice quivering as she asked, "Are you sure we're going the right way?" Sam's smile never wavered. "We'll get there," he replied in a soothing tone, but Nina wasn't reassured. She knew something was terribly wrong. She considered asking Sam to stop the car, but as she looked out the window, her heart skipped a beat. The scenery outside seemed to be repeating itself. The same buildings, the same landmarks.
It was as if they were trapped in an endless loop.
Fear surged through Nina's veins. She fumbled for her phone, her fingers trembling as she dialed 911. But, to her horror, the call wouldn't connect. She glanced at the screen and her heart sank. No signal. "Please, you have to stop the car," Nina begged, her voice desperate. Sam's smile widened, his eyes gleaming with an eerie light. "We're almost there," he repeated, his voice echoing in the confined space. With a surge of adrenaline, Nina flung open the car door and stumbled out onto the street. She didn't look back as she ran, her breath coming in ragged gasps. The cityscape blurred around her as she sprinted, her only goal to escape the never-ending ride. Hours later, Nina found herself on a crowded street, surrounded by people. She stopped, her chest heaving as she caught her breath. She looked around, relief washing over her as she realized she was finally safe. But as she glanced back in the direction she'd come from, her heart nearly stopped. There, at the edge of the crowd, she saw the familiar profile of the grab car. Sam was still behind the wheel, his smile never faltering, his eyes fixed on her. Nina knew then that she had escaped something beyond comprehension, a ride that defied the laws of reality, a driver who seemed to exist beyond the confines of the ordinary world. She walked away, her mind haunted by the unending ride and the unsettling smile that would forever be etched into her memory.